Now, we've got a lawyer here. Let's go over this Gina stuff and see like what is going on here. So is this just, are they having another hearing for the ruling then? Are we going to get discovery?
So Gina filed her lawsuit. Disney filed a motion to dismiss. They actually had their hearing on it where they sat down and talked. The judge was, okay, I have questions. They got to state their piece one more time. The judge seems kind of receptive to the idea here that this is going to survive the motion and dismiss, which means it would go to discovery. It's not. It's
not guaranteed yet. Then we have
no.
Okay.
She's taken under advisement. So she said, I don't necessarily agree that Disney's correct here. There's no claim upon which relief could be granted. So she might let this go forward, at least to discovery. It doesn't mean she'll let it go further than that or how far into discovery she'll let it go. But it sounds like Gina's going to get some chance to go root around in Disney's.
Why would she stop her? Why would she stop her once discovery started?
Well, after a while, Disney could say, look, we've done discovery. We can prove there is no question of material fact.
I think she's going to let it go forward and we're going to get it. And man, imagine if there's some, look at I've seen
all the emails and shit. Yeah.
We've seen the dirty laundry of a company before, and that was with Sony. Remember that Sony hack? That was beautiful. Yeah. And then like the Johnny Depp stuff, like Discovery's juicy. I mean, that's how we learned he wanted to like the Honda Civic shit. Remember the Honda Civic? So, I think we're going to see some really interesting shit from this if it even happens, because I think, and we were talking about this before the stream started, if this goes to Discovery, there's a high possibility Disney pulls out the blank checkbook.
I think they'll try to do that before. What do you say, Sean? Can they do that before this even goes to Discovery?
Right now, the judge is taking under advisement. She's figuring out what she's going to do. So, yeah, they could already turn around and say, what do you want? What do we need to do to make this go away? There's a problem with it, though. If you start,
she'll say that, fuck off. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And word gets out that Disney's already bending the knee. I think there's no point because you got to wait for the judge. The cake's already been baked. Like, you got to wait. You're almost bidding against yourself if you try to settle now.
If she chose to take a giant bag, like I wouldn't hate her. Yeah, I would say, good for you. But I don't think she cares about that.
No, I think you brought up the Johnny Depp case. I think this is a lot like that. And I mean, I can't speak for Gina, obviously, but I just considering the things she said in the press and other things that we know about her, I think it's all about the principle, right? Like,
yeah,
she just wants this shit out in the public so people can see, because there's a lot of people who are just believing the headlines and shit about her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, and I think that's what's bothering her more than anything. Yeah,
that's a really good point there, Tom, because a lot of people don't even read the articles. They just read the headlines. And if they do, this is why, like in journalism, they'll tell you to put the most important shit right. God damn it. Right in here. Oh my God. Right in here. The first two paragraphs. That's where you put the most, because that's what most people read. If they go down and read the article, they just read this. They don't go down here and read any of that shit.
No, and that's kind of what happened in the opposite direction this last week. And just so people know why Flash was saying I was right, I wasn't even sure I was 100% right. That's why I was glad we got Sean in here, because even Gina came out and said, wait a minute, the way the press is running with this is inaccurate. She hasn't made her decision yet. The way the press presented it, though, is that what the judge had said in court leaned into the idea that she was going to go that way. She couldn't, but most likely, I think, like Sean is saying and everything like that, chances are she's going to decide to go to Discovery before.
This right here is what really sets that off.
That's the way I understood it anyway. Yeah.
This is why I was saying it was going to happen. But
and it all depends on how much Discovery. I mean, there's going to be some, but is it going to be the chance where she gets Bob Iger deposed? I don't know.
Because she had said something about some email she wanted to brought up that didn't get brought in right away or something like that too, and some other things. Yeah,
Kathleen will get deposed though.
God, I'd love to see that.
She definitely will.
Yeah, I don't know how much Bob has to do with this. Go ahead. Sorry,
sorry, Jim's in the chat saying Discovery exposes everything. It does, but you don't always just get to get everything. You don't get to run roughshod right away. Disney will try to stop the bleeding at some point, and they will have the right to say, look, we've shown some things, sure, some of this is salacious, but it doesn't change the fact Gina doesn't have a case. Now, the judge will probably look at that and say, well, wait, this is really salacious, so it looks like Disney, Gina does have a case. It's really going to depend on what we find.
And this is where they're going to also
all going to hinge on Discovery.
Fight for certain people's emails to be seen and certain other people's emails to not be seen, right, Sean? Is that kind of what's going to happen here?
Well, there's going to be all
lawyers arguing and stuff. Yeah,
there's going to be fights over what's privileged, what's not privileged. A lot of it's probably not going to be privileged. Certainly they might argue like there's trade secrets or business strategy that's not relevant to it. I think Disney's going to try to hide a lot of that,
right?
Even the things about Gina. So the Discovery fight's going to be, months and months and months and months and months.
That's
what
I was thinking too. So,
yeah.
But if we can, because they're like bringing up Bob, for instance, they're going to argue, well, there's no reason Bob's email should be brought into this and stuff like that, just as an example. And they'll try to argue that, and then that's the thing I'm just getting at. Yeah, so like it's going to be a process of that shit too. Was what I was getting to.
Yes, there'll be a lot of trying to protect things.
Jim Williams here for 5 says they'll pull an injunction, but they need to prove malice.
You wouldn't really get an injunction at that point. You're arguing like protective orders. This is privileged material. Like a lot of what Disney's going to say. Bob's only in charge of overall business strategy. Some of the writers for Lucasfilms. Yeah, they might be talking about Gina in email, but it's about all the Rangers of the New Republic and all that other crap they were trying to put together. So now it becomes a trade secret or business.
What about HR?
Some HR stuff
struggle sessions that they wanted her to go through that she talked about.
And she'll be able to present her sides of the email, correct?
Yes. Well, she'll be able to present some, but it's going to be more important to have
whatever they allow through. Yeah. Okay.
The HR stuff, you'd like to think that wouldn't be protected, but I don't know what kind of arguments Disney will make that the judge may buy or not buy. But yes, you'd like to think those would come in, but you never know.
So you just can't get everything you want. You go, I want to give us all of this.
Yeah, well, no, you say give me everything, and then
you got to fight for it, basically.
Disney has the right to say, well, no, we can't give. Like, think about it. If all the emails from Kathleen Kennedy, if she's talking with Disney Legal, well, now that's attorney-client privilege. Or if she's talking about business strategy or trade secrets or things they're trying to develop, Gina doesn't necessarily have a right to all that crap. So Disney's going to they're going to use all those things to try to hide.
Right.
Everything. But what if Kennedy CC'd legal on every piece of paper or email she ever?
Well, at that point it becomes an issue because now there's issues of third parties being involved. You can't just wrap yourself up like that, but that's what that's what they'll try to do.
Gotcha.
See, now, like if there was a situation where they tried to argue, let's say, because you brought up the Rangers show, right? Because that was the thing, is that was supposed to be her next show, and there was a launch pad to her own solo show as well, from what we understood. Her lawyers may be able to argue those have to be able to be allowed into this, because that's their part of their argument, is that she was supposed to have the show and that got taken away from her, among other things, right? So like it's going to be a long I wonder how long it's going to take, but like, yeah.
Well, you'd like to think so, but it really just it's the shitty lawyer answer sometimes. Maybe it depends. And the other problem is somebody like Disney. I want all the things where you talked about Gina Carano. Think about how many emails there are, how much documentation there is involving Gina Carano.
Well, you know what's
you're gonna have multiple writer trucks full of.
What about social media accounts? Whoever's running their social media accounts.
I wanted to point out like the Deadline article. So who is the person that said to them, yeah, she's done? That was supposedly from somebody at Lucasfilm. And I'd love to know who that was. Like, could they have to give
it almost
that up?
Doesn't matter at this point, because they've owned it publicly. That's the problem. They can't even argue anymore that was some secondary party or something like that was representing them or anything like that. That's
they're gonna have to figure out who it is. That's So I don't know.
We'll get that person's emails.
Yeah, but you don't know. You got to start with that, and obviously the reporter's not going to tell you. He's going to tell you to kick rocks, and he has every right.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of work in this.
Well, my point around that is that they've already owned that publicly when they've answered questions about her, basically. So that's another point that they put. And I've been comparing this to the Reedy Creek situation, because that's another thing that's going to screw them. Because every argument they made during the Reedy Creek fight, they're putting against her in this case, and that's the other thing that I think is going to screw them in the end. I don't know if her lawyers are going to bring that up at all, but like because they were arguing freedom of speech in that case.
This is a good point too from Jim Williams for 5. Gina does have Elon backing her. The usual money it out.
Sure.
Yeah,
busted.
Yeah, she's got the ability that normally when you sue somebody like Disney, they will bury you with a mountain of paperwork and say, look, here is everything. Well, Elon's got the money and Gina has a law firm behind her who, if you try that, they're actually fine with that because they can process all that information. So Disney has to attack this in a different way than their normal course of.
I just can't wait to see all the stuff that gets leaked, like all the DEI stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If I remember correctly, when Gina was doing this before she got fired and she said the things that she said apparently that Kathleen Kennedy wanted to put her in a
the struggle session
Zoom call,
Zoom call
right?
with like a bunch of LGBTQ.
So that's
activists.
the kind of stuff that I can't wait to see get leaked because that's going to be relevant to the case.
Yeah,
obviously,
that's what I want. I want all that dirty laundry out
that's
there.
What I want
it's
to.
Gonna be. It's. I think it's going to be really juicy.
Yeah,
we're going to get to see
documented.
We're going to get to see like the insides of all this shit that we talk about. We're going to get to see them.
Now, what if it points back, Flash and Sean? What if it points back to Kennedy? You don't think that could be enough to get them to roll her over, like take her out?
I think personally, if this case ends up being that Gina, like, here's the thing. This is realistically what I think will happen. I don't think even if Gina wins this, she will not work for Disney again. I don't think that's going to happen.
She has integrity.
However, if she does win, obviously she'll get a lot of money out of it. And I think at that point, Disney's probably going to look at Kathleen Kennedy and go, you're already bad for our image, but now you are technically the face of our public failure in this case. And I think they could use that maybe to get rid of her.
I do got to say one thing though. In California, the law is that, and that's part of the reason she put that in there to get their job back. That's part of the discrimination deal as part of my understanding, right, Sean?
It's part of the deal, but generally speaking, giving my job back, you wouldn't want to go back anyway because that's a hostile work environment that look for any reason to get rid of you to start with. But yes, she has to plead and demand for all of that, but she's not going to get it. She wouldn't want it anyway. She's going to eventually just want them to cut a big check. And Flash, you brought it up. I mean, let's say they wave $125 million in front of her face right now. I wouldn't blame her to take that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big bag, So
she'd be set for life.
At the same time, she has expressed interest in going back and playing the character again. And if it's only for working for Favreau as one of the conditions, maybe it might work out that way. I mean,
no, because it's going to be the whole episode's going to be a bunch of lesbian Wiccan. Like I said, I haven't watched it. I
see them spite writing it.
They're going to just be butt fucking each other the whole time.
That's baloney. I still have faith that maybe the Grogu Mandalorian movie might be at least watchable because Favreau knows how to make something watchable.
I don't know.
On the other hand, I don't know.
But think about the title of it.
It's a terrible title. It's a terrible.
It's got to be a working title.
Could you imagine if Star Wars
be a working title, George?
I hope so, because could you imagine if Star Wars had those types? I mean, the original ones. It would be like space battles in space. Jaws would be big fish and boat.
And I'm not even thinking the movie's going to be good.
Obi-Wan and Luke.
Yeah, I mean, it's like old guy and young guy, swords.
Well, I just bring that up because there has been rumblings and rumors that Favreau does want her back for the movie, and that's part of what's causing some delays and situations and stuff like that. But I don't know. I was just speculating there anyway. But yeah, I agree with you guys at the end of the day, unless it's a big enough check to make it worth it. Her whole thing is she wants the Discovery just to get her side of the story out there.
Now,
right? And the struggle session and all this stuff we all know. I'm more curious about the shit we don't know. Sorry, go ahead, George.
No, I was rude there. I didn't mean my earphones cut out. Could she also get them to clear her name, like demand a statement?
That's kind of what this is, really. If that's
but publicly, like take out in the trades, go on the news.
She could say one of her demands, and as a settlement is Disney retracts all the statements they made about her and say, actually, Gina Carano is not a very bad person. In fact, she's a really good person. She's a good girl, the best. They could do that. Disney, I guarantee, would rather put zeros on a check.
Really?
Have to go back. Oh, I get, because now that's Florida made them bend the knee.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they have to do this, from experience, getting somebody to want to say sorry, a lot of people will pay to avoid having to say sorry.
Isn't that weird?
Can I jump in, just ask a question to Sean here?
Yeah.
If Elon is the one backing her, and we all know Elon hates Iger, and he wants the info to come out to make Disney look as bad as possible, because it's not about the money, it's about embarrassing Disney. Could Elon make some sort of backroom deal with Gina to be like, don't take any money, whatever it's going to be, I'll give you some money. We're going to take this to the end to screw over Disney.
Certainly, that could be the deal that's out there. They could make an agreement for that. But ultimately, if Gina, like I said, they wave like $100 million in front of her.
But what if Elon's like, I'll match it, but we're going to keep pushing?
That would be fine. But ultimately, let's say they offer her something that Elon can or doesn't want to do. Gina's the one, she's the client. Elon might be paying, but it's only her control.
Oh, she doesn't get a say?
No. The client, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, who. So, like, for example, if I'm representing George and Flash is paying me, Flash doesn't get a say in what happens. George is the only one that gets a say in what happens.